welcome back to our spring break camp inn. It is me, one of your favorite Civil War soldiers and park rangers, Ranger Jake, with your other favorite Civil War soldier and park ranger, Ranger James. We are back at camp here in the park's 50-acre field, beautiful green field stretching right behind us, with our Civil War tent that we set up in one of our earlier videos with the white canvas, and we've got our wool blankets on the inside there. The last video that you saw of us, we had just settled down to a nice meal of soldiers' rations, okay? And, you know, they were about as good as they looked, I promise. We shared the plate here. I don't know, what you think, Ranger James? Was it as good as the salt pork and hardtack we had the last 4 days?
It was better.
Better. See, Ranger James is an optimist. We like optimists.
I got to share it with you guys.
Oh, see? An optimist, and he likes to share. That's what park rangers do. With sharing, we're going to share with you what the soldiers might do with the rest of their time at camp. So a lot of time, one of the things I can't remember if we mentioned or not, but a lot of the time of the soldiers spent while they were on the march, right? If they were either marching or they were at camp. Very little time next to all that other stuff was spent actually fighting. So there was long days, weeks, and sometimes even months at camp. And so they had to do kind of menial things. And so one of the other things, so after they would eat, you got to take care of yourself. You got to clean. Now, we today take showers at least once a day, once every other day, and that's just kind of ingrained in us. You know, you don't want to feel yucky, especially if you've been outside running around, getting all sweaty and stuff like that. So we're going to go through kind of that, and Ranger James is over here fooling with one of our coats there. Again, we're not wearing the full uniform. We've got our sky blue pants on and our shoes, but we're wearing our undershirts. I've got my vest and my hat on, but we're at camp. We're taking it easy. Ranger James is over here with one of our coats, and I'll tell you what he's doing with that in just a second. But first we'll get into kind of keeping clean. So one of the things that soldiers had going against them was, well, two main things. Number one was the belief in germs. So in this country, we weren't really quite where we are now in believing in germs and microscopic organisms. And if you don't believe in germs, then you're probably not going to wash your hands after you use the bathroom or before you eat or anything like that. You're probably not going to bathe a whole lot. Now, the other thing that was going against these soldiers was they didn't have ready all the time access to water. So you probably know, if you've been on a long camping trip, you don't get to take a shower or a bath every night. And that was the exact same with these soldiers. You combine that with the idea that, again, they didn't know the importance of taking a bath, so they would have bathed even less than they needed to. When they'd come up, you have, at the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain, between the two sides, you have close to 200,000 soldiers here, okay? You have roughly 160, 170,000 soldiers, and not a lot of water. So what you would do is they could either cook and eat with it, or they could bathe with it. And a lot of times they're gonna cook and eat with it. So when they did bathe, the soldiers did have soap. So I've got a little metal can here, okay? And inside I've got a round bar of soap. This soap was the typical type of soap that they would have used, would have been made out of a material called lye. And lye is really nasty stuff. Lye is something that nowadays we use in drain cleaner. But lye was mixed with some sort of animal fat, and it was rendered into a soap, and they would use that to clean their skin, kind of give themselves a brief once-over if they could, get some of the dirt off. And then after that wonderful meal of coffee and grease and hardtack, and still got my coffee cup here, okay? Soldiers would need to brush their teeth. Now again, we don't know about germs, and a lot of times soldiers didn't have the excess water to brush their teeth with, but they did have toothbrushes. Now, what I've got here, I've got a white toothbrush. This was a bone-handled toothbrush, and the bristles that you see here, kind of thick and coarse and white, were made out of, were usually used from animal hair, horse hair or boar or pig hair, okay, because it's really coarse. They would take another cup. This is, they might only have one coffee cup. Luckily, I've got my coffee cup for drinking and my kind of a metal rusty cup, what they might have used for cleaning. So you take a little bit of water in here, and you can a lot of times they would just brush with water. Sometimes they had tooth powder, which is basically like baking soda and salt. Didn't do a whole lot to clean your teeth, but it kind of polished them up a little bit. Sometimes if they wanted a little extra polish, they would even use soot or ash from the fire, because it has kind of an abrasive, kind of a scratchiness that can polish your teeth up a little bit. So after they've brushed their teeth and not done a very good job of it, might be time to make yourself look a little presentable. You couldn't bathe, you couldn't wash your hair really, so you might put a little bit of grease from dinner, some sort of something, a little bit of maybe a little bit of grease, maybe a little bit of water if you had it, to slick back your hair. There's a wooden comb here to kind of maybe make yourself a little more presentable. I'm just kind of combing through my hair right now. And another reason that you would comb your hair, to make yourself look presentable, maybe get some of the dirt and some of the stuff out. But also, Ranger James has handed me this. He knew where I was going with that. Because the soldiers couldn't bathe a lot, because they were in close quarters all the time and sleeping in the dirt and around a lot of other people, one of the things they almost were infested with at all times in the war, were lice. Lice were disgusting. And what I'm holding in my hand right now, our cameraman's going to zoom in just a little bit. It's a comb, and you'll look at it, and it looks just like a regular black comb, but you'll notice that the teeth, or the tines of the comb, are very close together, very small and very close together. This was a louse comb. The idea is that you could take this, and the lice were, at this point, been living on you for so long, they're so big you could brush through your beard. I'm brushing through my beard here to kind of get all those bugs out of there, and maybe brush through your hair to pick them out, okay? Now, I would just like to note, for any of you watching at home, Ranger Jake does not have lice. This is a theatrical production, okay? So this is for demonstration purposes only. So that roughly sums up the hygiene. I'm going to put my hat back on here. And over here, so another thing the soldiers would do, they had to keep themselves clean, but they also had to take care of their uniforms. So Ranger James, why don't you tell us what you're doing over there, and we'll talk about what that thing in your hand is.
So I'm sewing. Typically, Civil War soldiers, they were issued just one set of uniforms, or that was all they'd be able to carry. You got to remember, these guys are able to march sometimes 30 miles in a day. So they're not carrying a whole lot. Sometimes the clothes that you have, they would have had to last. And back then, unlike today's military, where you have certain timelines in which you are deployed and then you get to come home, if you enlisted during the war, typically you were stuck there until the war was over, or for at least 3 years. So these guys have been wearing the same clothes for 3 years, the same ones that they were issued in a lot of cases. And as you can imagine, being out here in the dirt, in the mud, and in the elements, and then also in combat all the time and marching, you'd wear holes in your uniform pretty quickly. I'm working on my jacket, but typically it would be in the seat of your pants, to be honest. We're not going to show you that. So what we have here is, I'll let Ranger Jake kind of go over that. It's a sewing kit that the soldiers would have been able to carry, really easily accessible in your knapsack.
Absolutely. It was one of these, so the soldiers were issued a fair amount of things, and sometimes they made their own stuff. And what this is, it's just like Ranger James said, it's a sewing kit, and sometimes they would call it a housewife. And this particular one is blue. It's kind of a blue, dark blue and light blue with a floral pattern or flowers on it. And it is basically just a piece of material that's got some pockets in it, and this was just a handy way to carry all you need for sewing. It's got a few needles tucked away in here. In here I've got some clothespins that also have some different color thread on here of what I might need. And this one we've used up on our jacket here, but would have also had some scraps of fabric if you needed to sew a patch on those clothes that you're wearing holes in. And another thing we didn't mention, but that was cleaning the clothes. There would be sometimes large-scale cleanings of uniforms that were done by laundress services. And laundress is exactly like it sounds, laundry. But it was a long process. And again, as Ranger James said, that might not happen very often at all. So these guys were wearing dirty, nasty uniforms, and they were doing all they can to keep them as clean as possible and keep the holes out of them with sewing kits like this, but they weren't always successful with the amount of time they were out. So again, doesn't sound very fun in soldier life. They're dirty, they're not cleaning very well, they're wearing dirty clothes. But the next video that we show from the soldier's perspective, hopefully we'll have a little bit more fun with that one, and you'll see why. Now, so we mentioned sewing. That's kind of a task, a chore the soldiers had to do, but some people consider it a craft. And that's where the librarians are going to take you with their next video. They've got a really fun craft to do with you, and I heard that they're going to help you learn how to build a drum. So without any further ado, we will sign off. The next time we see you at camp, at soldier camp, we'll have some fun things to talk about. emphasis on the word fun. And until then, we will see you next time. Enjoy your drum making.